not so that you may hear words that sound familiar, nor so that you may soothe yourself with temporary thoughts, but so that you may truly listen from the depths. My beloved child, before you hastily turn your back on hope, I invite you to pause for just one more moment of your soul. You have questioned, you have sighed in silence, you have cried out in hours when no one could see. And it was precisely there where you believed you were alone with the weight of life that I was present. I did not arrive later than your anxiety, nor did I come after everything had already fallen apart. I was there in the very moment you stood wavering between continuing to believe and giving up. My child, I know exactly what you have walked through. I see how you strive to appear composed before others while inside your heart is crowded with calculations that have no clear answers. I know the nights when you lie awake, eyes wide open in the darkness, your mind spinning with numbers, bills to be paid, and responsibilities piling one upon another. I know the helplessness you feel when you have done everything you can, yet everything still seems beyond your control. I do not dismiss your financial worries, for I understand that they are not merely about money. They are about security, the future of your family, your dignity, and your hope. I see it all, and I do not turn away, but you must understand this. I do not come to you merely to soothe your emotions for a moment. I come to open a path you have never been able to see with natural eyes. I come not with empty promises, but with real guidance, deep, steady, and enduring. What you are facing is not the end, even if it wears the appearance of a deadlock. Many times you think you need an instant miracle, an unexpected sum, a sudden change to make everything right. But I tell you this, the greatest miracle is do not always arrive with loud noise. Often they begin with a quiet shift within you when you choose trust over fear, listening over panic. My beloved child, the moment you stop to listen to me is the moment a new journey begins. Not because every bill immediately disappears, nor because every hardship suddenly dissolves, but because your inner foundation has been reset. When you stop allowing anxiety to lead you, I have space to guide you step by step. I will show you doors you could not see before, not because they do not exist, but because your mind was too occupied with fear. I will place in your hands the wisdom to manage, the clarity to choose, and the right relationships at the right time to support you. Do not think that I care only for your soul while neglecting your practical life. I am the one who knows what you need before you speak a word. I understand that you need tangible provision, clear solutions, and light at the end of the road. Yet I also know that if you receive money without peace, you will still live in unrest. That is why I work at the root. I heal the way you see your own worth, so that you no longer measure yourself by the balance in your account. I teach you to discern between true needs and false fears, so you are not swept away by the pressures of the world. My beloved son, my beloved daughter, you are not abandoned in this battle. Every tear you have shed in silence is not meaningless. I have gathered every whispered prayer, every wordless sigh, and I'm using them to weave the path ahead of you. You may not see the results today, but that does not mean I am not acting. Just as a seed lies hidden in the soil before it breaks through the surface, my work often begins where your eyes cannot see. Let your heart grow still for a moment. Do not rush to compare your journey with others. Do not let stories of rapid success make you believe that you are late or that you have failed. I have my timing, and that timing always carries perfect precision. When you walk with me, every step, even the smallest one, has meaning. I will teach you faithfulness in small things, so that you may stand firm when greater things come. I will teach you how to open your hands, not to lose, but to be ready to receive. My child, the financial miracle you long for is not a distant moment hidden somewhere in an uncertain future. It began the instant you chose to stop, to listen, to place your trust in me instead of in fear. From that moment, the current has changed direction. You are no longer rowing the boat of your life alone through the stormy waves. For I am with you, guiding you, and never taking my eyes off you for even a single moment. Keep moving forward with an open heart and a trust firmly anchored in me. What I have begun I will complete, and you will not be ashamed that you chose to trust. My beloved child, still your heart for a moment, and do not let the hurried breaths of worry drown out what I am whispering to you. There are moments along the journey of faith when I allow a season to draw near. Not so that you hold your breath in anxious anticipation, but so that you may recognize that I am still at work. Even when you cannot yet see the outcome with your natural eyes. That reward carries transformation not only in outward circumstances but first, within the inner foundation where you learn to trust me more deeply than you. When I speak of reward, I'm not speaking merely of a number or a transaction, but of a response woven from your steadfast trust. Ever thought possible? My child, I know the roads you have walked. I know the times you stood at crossroads without enough information to step forward with certainty. I know the moments when you believed and feared at the same time. When you prayed yet questioned, when you hoped yet remained cautious, and yet it was precisely in those moments that your faith was refined. It did not grow through abundance, but through the days you chose faithfulness while everything was still unclear. And I say to you, not a single drop of sweat is meaningless. Not a single sleepless night has been overlooked. Everything you have sown in silence is quietly taking root. I have countless ways to make a path. Through opportunities you never imagined. Through connections you did not expect. Through wisdom placed into your hands. When I speak of provision, understand that I am not limited by human frameworks. Just the right time. Sometimes what I give comes as a specific sum of money. Sometimes it comes as a wise decision that spares you from loss. Sometimes it appears as a new door opening at the appointed moment. Whatever its form, the essence of grace remains the same. I care for you wholly, not only resolving the present need, but also building a lasting future. My beloved child, I do not bless you so that you become dependent on the blessing. I bless you so that you may be free. I desire that you live unburdened by scarcity, unchained from fear of tomorrow. When I lead you into a season of harvest, I also teach you stewardship so that you may guard, distribute, and use what I entrust to you with wisdom of heart. True miracles do not end at the moment of receiving. They continue in how you live afterward in the peace that is no longer shaken by change. Remember this. My love is not a temporary reaction to your prayers. That love was present long before you could name your worries. My grace pours out not because you are perfect, but because you belong to me and because you belong to me. I do not let you walk alone. You may be waiting for a clear sign to feel secure, but I invite you to trust a deeper promise. I do not abandon what I have begun. When I say the time has come, I speak with the precision of the one who holds all time in his hands. My child, the harvest is not measured only by immediate results. It is measured by the transformation within you. When you no longer panic over numbers, no longer condemn yourself for the past, no longer doubt your own worth. From that foundation, outward changes will come with endurance. You will find yourself steadier, clearer, and more at peace when facing whatever arises. This is the unmistakable sign that grace is at work. Therefore, walk forward in trust, not in haste. Keep your heart open not to be swept away by fleeting expectations, but to receive fully what I am preparing. The reward of faith is not only what you receive, but who you become as that faith is refined. And I am here never distant, never delayed to walk with you through every step. What I have promised, I will fulfill in a way that brings life, peace, and lasting steadfastness to you, my beloved child. When blessing touches your life, the first thing I desire you to guard is not excitement, but a deep and quiet gratitude. Gratitude does not clamor or seek attention. Gratitude helps you recognize that what you have does not come from chance nor solely from personal effort, but is a gift entrusted to you so that you may live more. It is steady and luminous like a lamp set within a home, rightly, more generously, and more deeply. When you bow your head in silence to give thanks, it is in that very moment that you lay a firm foundation for all that I will continue to place in your care. I invite you to receive blessing with wisdom, not the calculating wisdom that measures gain and loss, but the clarity that knows how to discern. Wisdom teaches you to slow down amid haste, to listen before deciding, to ask the right questions before opening your hands, to use what has been given. I want you to learn how to preserve a rhythm of peace so that what I give does not draw you into the world of fear and loss but leads you into the spacious. There are resources that when passing through immature hands, quickly become burdens, but when placed in humble and watchful hands, they turn into seeds that multiply. Freedom of trust. My child, blessing is not given only for your enjoyment. Blessing is also meant for you to bless others. When you use what you have to support your own life, to care for your body, nourish your soul, and build your family, you are doing what is right. But when you widen your heart to see the needs of others, that blessing enters a new dimension. It no longer remains still in your hands, it begins to flow, carrying life with it. I do not call you to give from exhaustion, nor do I push you into a need to prove anything. I invite you to live generously from an inner fullness where you know you are loved, protected, and guided. Remember, this great blessing always comes with great responsibility. When I entrust you, I trust that you will learn to weigh matters carefully, to arrange wisely, to delay what is unnecessary in order to prioritize what not as a weight that presses down on your shoulders, but as a trust that is bestowed, carries lasting value. Responsibility does not steal your freedom, it safeguards it. It keeps you from losing your way among alluring, but empty choices, from trading peace for momentary glitter. Responsibility teaches you to look beyond the present moment, so that the decisions of today do not wound tomorrow. My beloved child, the caution I speak of is not fear. Caution is walking with open eyes, a tender heart, and a clear conscience. It is when you learn to ask, does this build up? Does this bring life? I will remind you when it is time to pause, urge you forward when it is time to move and realign you when you drift, never through condemnation, but through the does this reflect the values I am choosing to live by? When you ask these questions, I will meet you there and place peace within you as a confirming sign. Light of truth. I desire that the resources you now hold become channels of blessing for many, beginning with you so that you do not live in constant tension, so that anxiety does not govern every small decision. When your inner life is healed, the outer flows will gradually find their order. From that foundation, you will see relationships restored, opportunities opened, and ideas awakened. Blessing, when placed in its proper place, gives birth to creativity, hope, and enduring joy. My child, give yourself time to remain with these words. Not because I need you to act immediately, but because I want you to absorb them. In staying, you allow understanding to move from the mind down into the heart. Staying helps you recognize the pressure of the world and distinguish it from my gentle leading. Staying helps you discern between true needs and false fears, so you are not swept away by the pressures of the world. Giving to this work through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our co-f, please know that every seed you plant in this mission will grow into a torch that shines in someone else's darkness. Community does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. Heaven moves through willing voices, but it grows through hearts that are kind. This is what I say over you now. Each gift you give is like a stream of living water that flows into the life of someone who needs healing. Give and it will be given to you is not just a verse for Jesus. It is a living promise that shapes your future. Allow me to invite you now with a simple act of faith. Come into this moment with purpose, with honesty, and with hope. The money you give today is not a donation. The act of spiritual obedience that lets your heavens open is what opens them. Let go of your seed and see what God brings back into your life. Staying helps you discern between fleeting desires and deep longings. And once you discern, you will walk more lightly and more securely. No longer pulled by hurried voices. Move forward with gratitude as your compass, wisdom as your companion, and responsibility as your protective boundary. I am not in a hurry with you, and I will not abandon you. Every step you take in awareness is seen and upheld by me. What I give is not meant to make you greater than others, but to make you the right person, one who knows how to live, how to love, how to share, and how to steward. When you live this way, blessing does not merely visit your life. It remains, grows, and spreads. And I am here with you in every breath of that journey. What I give is not a brief flare that rises and fades, but a living source, capable of sustaining your family through the years, a wellspring of enduring joy, of deep peace, and of a life rewarded. My beloved child, allow me to speak to you with a gentleness that is steady and grounded in truth. Into healthy alignment. When blessing arrives, it does not touch only your finances or outward circumstances. It reaches the way you look toward the future, the way you shoulder responsibility, and the way you safeguard the most precious values within your home. From that foundation, happiness is no longer fragile, but becomes firm like a house built upon solid rock. My child, the prosperity I speak of is not a drifting stream of money, nor an empty promise of endless abundance. It is a way of living in which your choices grow wiser. Your decisions come at the right time and your efforts are guided by clarity. When the inner life is healed, outward actions carry the fragrance of trust like the scent of flowers drawing the bees. Not because you are striving to pull things toward yourself, but because you are living in the right rhythm, the right values, the right direction. Abundance then comes as the natural outcome of a life set in proper order. I invite you to look again at the old chains that once held you in worry and narrow ways of thinking. Fear of lack, memories of failure, habits of diminishing yourself, and the whisper that says, I am not enough. These chains are not broken by momentary willpower, but by truth repeated until it sinks into the. There are bonds unseen that have quietly steered your choices. Heart. You are loved, you are guided, and you are not defined by your past. When that truth stands firm within you, the chains fall away, not with a loud crash, but with a quiet freedom. Do not think that your being here now reading these words is an accident. Significant encounters rarely arrive with noise. They often come in stillness. When you are willing to listen and brave enough to believe, I have prepared this moment not to force you into immediate action, but to help you realize that you are not alone in this journey of renewal. When you know there is a hand supporting you, you stop rushing to prove yourself, stop comparing, and stop chasing standards that exhaust the soul. When you work with an upright heart, when you steward what you have with respect, when you give within your capacity and receive with humility, you are laying the. My beloved child, let your actions be born of gratitude and awareness. Foundation for a healthy flow. That flow is not always as forceful as a waterfall. Often it moves quietly like an underground spring, steady, life-giving, and unfailing. I want you to learn to recognize the small signs of blessing, for they are what form the larger picture over time. Your family, those you love, will sense the change even before they can name it. Not because you boast of what you possess, but because an atmosphere of peace settles over your home. When worry no longer rules, words grow gentler, conversations kinder, and shared decisions clearer. Blessing, when it passes through family life, multiplies because it is guarded by love and responsibility. My child, I do not invite you to chase outward signs to measure your worth. I invite you into true freedom. As you walk in that freedom, you will be surprised by doors opening at the right time, opportunities appearing in the right place, and ideas arriving at the right. Freedom from fear, freedom from scarcity thinking, freedom from the pressure to prove yourself. Moment. This is not coincidence. It is the result of a life realigned with truth. Remain with this truth a little longer. Do not rush. Do not force yourself to see results immediately. A seed needs time to take root. And when it finally bears fruit, you will realize that what matters most is not only what you have received, but who you have become along the way. More peaceful, more wise, and more open. My beloved child, what I long for in your life is not an existence worn thin by anxiety over daily provision, where each morning begins as an endless race with bills, debt, and the fear of losing the. I am here walking with you so that every step you take leads toward life, joy, and a future built upon a firm foundation. Little you are holding on to. I did not create you to live constricted, holding your breath before the future or measuring your worth by numbers that weigh heavily on your heart. I am the one who gives life abundantly, and my intention for you has always extended far beyond the narrow limits human beings so often impose upon themselves. My child, the words I speak are not sounds that drift away into the air. They carry power, they carry fulfillment. They carry a living force capable of transforming reality. When I promise, I do not promise from passing emotion. I promise from my very nature of faithfulness. And the promise I give today is not a temporary escape, not a help that comes and goes like a fleeting wind. I desire to teach you a new rhythm of living. A rhythm upheld by my financial miracles, steady like a river that never runs dry, flowing faithfully through every season of your life. But listen carefully. The miracle I speak of does not begin with money. It begins with a reordering within you. When fear still leads your heart, everything you receive, no matter how much, can easily slip through your hands. That is why I come first to free you from old patterns of thinking, from the whisper that says it will never be enough, from the pressure to cling tightly out of fear. When your mind is still haunted by lack, abundance becomes a burden rather than a blessing. Of loss, I teach you to trust so that you may open your hands without trembling. My beloved child, living under my miracle does not mean sitting still and waiting. It is a way of living with awareness where every decision is placed in the light of wisdom and every action is guided by peace. I will show you when to move forward and when to pause, when to invest and when to preserve, when to give and when to store up. True abundance is not loud or boastful. It quietly builds a firm foundation so that you are no longer shaken by sudden upheavals. I do not promise you a life without trials, but I do promise a life not ruled by trials. When my river flows through your life, it carries stability amid change, clarity amid confusion. Chalk clears throat sure and hope amid numbers that seem hopeless. You will learn to look beyond today, not because of anxiety, but because your vision has been widened. You will discover that you no longer live by fearful reactions, but by trustworthy guidance. My child, what I invite you to do today is simple yet far from small. When you choose to express agreement with this message, when you allow it to spread, you help create more space for grace to touch many other lives. Not for human recognition, not for visible metrics, but because every time truth is shared, another heart can be lifted from despair. Another family can rediscover peace. Another child can realize they have not been forgotten. I see a picture far larger than what you can see now. I see underground streams of hope connecting weary souls. When you choose to take part, even through a small act, you become part of that flow. And within that flow, the miracle does not only reach the one who receives. It returns to the one who gives in ways you cannot calculate in advance. For in my kingdom, sowing in faith always carries a harvest of joy. My beloved child, believe that I do not invite you because I lack anything. I invite you because I desire you to live according to the nature. You were created for a life that is open, steadfast, and full of hope. When you walk with me, every small step matters. And as you remain in the light of this promise, you will gradually realize that abundance is no longer something you must chase. It becomes the atmosphere you breathe each day. Let your heart rest in this truth. Move forward with gentle trust. My river has been opened and it will not run dry. I am here, never distant, to teach you how to live not by fear, but by the miracle flowing through every day of your life. My beloved child, I invite you to step into a season that is not measured by calendars or numbers, but by the ripening of the heart. This harvest does not arrive with noise, nor does it force itself upon anyone. It opens itself to those who are willing to become part of what I am doing by living, speaking, and sharing from a place of trust. When you choose to spread my word, you are not only sowing seeds for others, you are opening a pathway for your own household to receive new life. The flow of grace does not stop at the boundaries of speech. It follows the agreement of the heart and pours into the very place where you are standing. My child, joy may have felt distant from you for a while, not because your faith was lacking, but because you have walked through weary stretches of the road. I see that. I see the mornings when you force a smile while wounds still linger within. The evenings when you long for rest, yet your mind refuses to be still. But I tell you this, joy has not disappeared. When you enter this harvest season with an open heart, joy will return, not with explosions or display, but steady and warm, like a fire that keeps an entire. It has only been waiting to be called by its proper name at the right time. Room warm through a cold night. The healing I give does not touch only the body. It reaches deep into the places where you learn to endure alone. I heal the memories that make you shrink inward. I heal the quiet words of self-blame. I heal the way you see yourself. And from that healing, your life is set in order again. Your breathing becomes steadier, your thoughts clearer, your decisions lighter. Prosperity then is no longer a target to chase. It is the fruit of a life placed in proper order. You live in abundance not because you have become stronger, but because you no longer carry everything by yourself. My beloved child, engrave this deeply in your soul. Every good thing you receive flows from the grace of the Father in heaven. Not from your own strength, not from your merits. Grace does not make you passive. Grace makes you free. It frees you from the pressure to prove yourself, from comparisons that drain your spirit, from the fear that you will never be enough. In that freedom, you act with wisdom, love with openness, and work with peace. This is how grace transforms ordinary life into a place of gentle refuge. I promise health and healing to my people not as a slogan, but as a steady stream of care. I lead them into a peace that is not shaken by upheaval, into a safety that does not come from gripping tightly, but from being watched over. Abundant security does not make you avoid reality. It gives you the courage to face it without panic. When you know you are being shepherded, you walk without haste, and you rest without fear. My child, let the declarations of your faith not remain only on your lips, but take root in the way you live. When you say that the Lord is your shepherd, you are choosing to believe that you are not abandoned in the wilderness. When you say that you lack nothing, you are refusing to let fear define your future. When you trust that goodness and unfailing love will follow you all the days of your life, you are opening your heart to faithfulness that transcends time. And when you affirm that you will dwell in the house of the Lord forever, you are choosing a refuge that cannot be shaken. Remember, this faith is not an instant remedy, it is a rhythm of life. There are days when you see clear results. There are days when you only notice that you are standing firmer than yesterday. Both are part of the process. As this awakening grows inside you, know that helping with this mission is not a joke. It is a sign from God. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our Rokofi community, by doing so, you become part of Jesus' plan to still souls who are still. You can support this work through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Stuck in fog. Every seed turns into light that fights against darkness. If you water others, you will be watered yourself. Jesus says this is not history. It is a living promise about your future. Come into this moment with faith and a plan. What God has already planned for your life can be unlocked through your giving. And in that process, I am with you, slowing you down when needed, encouraging you to keep going when you are tired, and lifting you up when you stumble. The harvest does not come because you are perfect. It comes because you agree to remain, to listen, and to walk on. If your heart agrees with these words, let that agreement be expressed simply and sincerely. Not to impress, not to be seen, but to remind yourself of the choice you are making. With humble faith, you can say, I believe. Say it not to force an outcome, but to open your heart to the grace that is flowing. And in that openness, you will see joy returning, healing spreading, and your life being upheld all by the steadfast love of the Father in heaven. The one who shepherds you through every season, top of form, bottom of form. My beloved child, now I invite you to pause and pay attention with your whole soul. There are questions you have carried for a long time, but have never dared to name. Yet when you look back, you still feel as though everything is standing still, as if an invisible ceiling is blocking the way, allowing your efforts to go only so far. You pray, you make an effort, you persevere, and no further. That feeling is not strange, nor is it a sign that your prayers have gone unheard. On the contrary, it is precisely there that I am inviting you to step into a deeper understanding. My child, the issue is not that the world has run out of resources. This world is full of opportunities, full of possibilities, and full of paths you have never walked. What holds you back is often not external lack but an internal lens. The way you have grown accustomed to viewing provision. When you look to your salary as the final support, you confine yourself to fixed numbers. When you place your hope primarily in assistance, pensions, or human help, you unintentionally narrow the horizon of your faith. Not because these things are bad, but because they were never meant to be the ultimate foundation of your life. I want to reveal to you a truth from heaven. Provision does not begin in a wallet, but in the giver of life. When you see me as the source, every other stream finds its proper place. When you put me at the center, external means are no longer burdened with a weight they were never meant to carry. And at that moment, the load on your shoulders grows lighter, because you no longer demand that finite things perform the work of the infinite. My beloved child, remember the stories of old, not as distant memories, but as mirrors for the present. When the widow's oil was running out, I did not reproach her for the small jar. I caused the oil to keep flowing. When my people stood in the barren wilderness, I did not ask whether they had enough reserves. I sent bread from heaven each morning. When the fishermen, weary, pulled up empty nets, I did not tell them to give up. I simply guided them to cast the nets in the right place. The common thread was not the circumstances, but the redirection of trust from what is seen to the one who sees all things ahead of time. You may have learned to measure security by outward stability. You learn to calculate and to plan ahead, and that is not wrong. But when those calculations become a wall that prevents you from trusting more deeply, they turn into the invisible ceiling you feel. I am not inviting you to live recklessly. I'm inviting you to live freely. Freedom is not the absence of responsibility, but the placing of responsibility into the right hands. The hands of the one who never grows weary of watching over you. My child, when you shift your gaze from the means to the source, the miracle begins quietly. You will find your mind less tense, your heart less panicked, and your decisions less rushed. Clarity arrives like the dawn, not startling, but bright enough to guide your steps. You will recognize opportunities you once dismissed out of fear. And you will avoid choices that appear attractive yet quietly drain your peace. This is how I teach you to live in provision. Not only by receiving more, but by seeing rightly. I do not promise that every day will be easy, but I do promise that you will no longer be trapped in the same cycle of fear. When you trust me as the inexhaustible source, you are no longer compelled to clutch tightly to what you have. You can manage wisely, give with joy, and receive with humility. The flow then does not depend on a single door. It finds many paths that only awakened faith can recognize. My beloved child, I want you to know that I am not distant from the small details of your life. I know every bill that weighs on your mind, every decision that makes you hesitate. Every night you pray without yet seeing change. But I also know that you are growing in how you see. When you stop calling money your savior and allow it to return to its rightful place as a tool, you will see the invisible ceiling gradually disappear. Not because it was shattered by human strength, but because you stepped out of the narrow room of fear. Stay with this truth a little longer. Do not rush to look for results. Let your faith be recalibrated like a compass finding true north again. When the direction is right, even small steps will carry you forward. I am the source that never runs dry. And I am continually teaching you how to receive. Not by gripping tightly, but by trusting. And in that trust, you will see the ceiling is gone. My beloved child, as long as your gaze remains anchored only to what your eyes can see and your ears can hear, you will continue to grow weary from the scattered. The path opens and your life begins to flow in rhythm with heaven. Fragments of earthly life. And when the heart contracts, people learn to live defensively, clutching tightly out of fear of loss, calculating out of fear of lack, and measuring there. Not because I am withholding, nor because you lack effort, but because a narrowed vision causes the heart to contract. Worth by fragile standards. But I invite you to step out of that cramped room. I invite you to open your spiritual eyes that do not deny reality, but look through it to discern the source behind every current that flows. My child, when you recognize that I am the God of the impossible, your world begins to shift. What is impossible to humanity no longer stands as a wall, but becomes a doorway through which grace enters. I do not deny natural limitations. I transcend them. I do not dismiss laws. I am the one who laid their foundations. When you place your trust in me, you do not abandon reason. You place reason in its rightful position, serving faith, not ruling over it. And when that order is restored, you will find that your life is no longer dragged along by fear, but upheld by a steady and unshakable hope. Do not rely on the world as your ultimate support any longer. My beloved, earthly systems can be useful, but they were never designed to carry your soul. When you place them in the role of savior, they become heavy. When you place them in the role of tools, they become light. I am not telling you to turn away from work, from planning, or from responsibility. I am telling you to turn your heart in the right direction. For when your heart is aligned, everything else finds its proper place. I am your Father, not only calling you by name, but holding you with steadfast care. I am your provider, not only for today, but for the long journey ahead. I am your sustainer, not only when you are strong, but especially when you are weak. My child, the financial miracle you long for does not begin at the bank or with a raise. The beginning lies within your heart, where you learn to trust before you see to, surrender before you understand, and to remain faithful while the outcome is still. Those things may come, and I do not despise them, but they are not the starting point. Unclear. Faith is not an emotional impulse. Faith is a daily choice choosing to believe that I am at work even when the process feels slow. When your heart opens in this way, the external doors will open and turn at the precise time. Faithfulness in small things is a lesson the world often overlooks, but it is the language I use to release what is great. When you steward what you have with reverence, you are learning to carry more. When you speak truth in matters no one sees, you are laying a foundation of trust. When you remain at peace amid complete numbers, you are refusing to let fear rule. These seeds may appear small, but they carry the life of the kingdom within them. And when the season comes, you will see that the harvest does not arrive with noise, but with endurance. My beloved, living in the supernatural does not mean escaping reality. It means entering reality with a different source of strength. You still work. You still calculate. You still take responsibility, but you are no longer alone. When I am your source, you are not dependent on a single channel. When one door closes, you do not panic because you know other pathways are being prepared. When a plan slows down, you do not condemn yourself because you trust that I am adjusting the pace to protect you from rushed steps. I know you have lived many days under pressure. Pressure to be enough, to have more to keep up. That pressure erodes joy and blurs vision, but I invite you to learn a new rhythm. The rhythm of trust. Trust does not make you passive. It makes you courageous. Courageous enough to say no to choices that steal your peace. Courageous enough to wait when waiting is required. Courageous enough to move when I prompt you. In that rhythm, you will feel lighter. Not because the burdens vanish immediately, but because there is one who carries them with you. My child, I do not define you by your past, nor do I imprison you within old limitations. Past failures are not a sentence, they are lessons. Former lack is not your identity, it is a stretch of the road. When you place your trust in me, I use those very stretches to teach you wisdom, to shape humility within you, and to prepare you for greater responsibility. Nothing is wasted in my hands, not even the days you thought were meaningless. Let your surrender become tangible. Surrender is not giving up. It is entrusting the final authority to the one who sees all things ahead. When you surrender, you do your part with integrity and then rest in my care. Rest does not slow you down, it makes you more precise. From that place of rest, you will hear guidance more clearly, recognize fitting opportunities sooner, and avoid many costly detours. My beloved, I am releasing something great, but I do so according to my order. That order protects you from gifts that come too early, from burdens beyond your strength, and from paths that are dazzling yet empty. When you are ready within, the outward will keep pace. When your spiritual eyes are opened, you will see that you no longer live on fragments. You live from a flow. That flow does not run dry, does not break off, and does not depend on chance. So walk forward, my child, with a vision widened and a heart anchored firmly in me. I am your Father, the provider, the sustainer, the one who never grows weary. What you are learning today will become the foundation for tomorrow. And when you look back, you will realize the miracle is not only what you received, but who you became more peaceful, wiser, and freer within my unchanging love. My beloved child, I know very well how many promises you have heard rise up and then fade away like passing wind. I know the weariness that comes when your heart once opened, once hoped, and then closed again because of disappointment. There are words spoken smoothly, beautifully, yet they carry no life. There are promises planted in your ears that never truly touched your soul. I understand why you are cautious. I understand why you are guarded. But today I am not speaking to you with human words, words that shift with circumstances, with self-interest, with emotion. My child, I'm declaring over your life that the season has come to bring an end to prolonged lack, to break the exhausting cycle of chasing material things and still. Today what I speak is an eternal decree flowing from my unchanging faithfulness. Never feeling satisfied. Not because you have finally tried hard enough and not because you have somehow become worthy by any human standard, but because the appointed time has arrived and to close the nights when you lie awake burdened by worries about tomorrow. I am the one who appoints time. When I say enough, it is not a temporary consolation. You are about to enter your divine future. Remember that this message does not end with you. People can use your breakthrough to get where they need to go through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our COF community, you can help this mission. By doing so, you are sowing into the awakening, deliverance, and restoration of souls who are still trapped in darkness. This is not poetry. When Jesus says, "Give, and heaven will open over you," every seed you plant turns into oil for your destiny, fire for your calling, and safety for your family. Now is your time, my child. Have faith, and as you do, watch God multiply what you let go of. It is a boundary established in the spiritual realm, a shift of seasons that you may not yet fully see with your eyes, but that you will clearly sense in your spirit. I am activating over you a new cycle of provision, not fragile, not intermittent, not dependent on a single source. This cycle is like a continuous flow, quiet yet enduring, moving through every season of your life. It does not roar like a flood, yet it never runs dry. It does not come to overwhelm you, but to lift you step by step into stability. Within this flow, you will learn to live no longer driven by the fear of loss, no longer haunted by the need to cling tightly just to feel secure. Yet, beloved child, I need you to remain watchful, for just as the enemy seeks to shut doors of opportunity, he is even more subtle in trying to lock your mind. He does not always come through great upheavals. He comes through familiar whispers. He tells you that you are not good enough. He replays old mistakes, so that you believe your past has decided your future. He plants the thought that it is too late to change. That blessing is for others, not for you. And if you are not alert, those lies will slowly become the inner voice you mistake for your own. My child, reject those words at the root. Do not argue with them. Do not try to persuade them. Refuse them. Truth does not need defense. It only needs to stand firm. When you rise in faith, you do not stand on fleeting emotions, but on the identity I placed within you before you even knew your own name. You are not an afterthought in my plan. You are not a replacement choice. You were not overlooked. You are in the right place at the right time for the right purpose. Speak this aloud, not for me to hear, for I already know, but to remind your own spirit. My God owns silver and gold, and He is my Father. When you say this, you are restoring inner order. You are shifting your focus from lack to the source. You are reminding your soul that you are not a beggar seeking favors, but a child learning how to receive. These words are not a formula, they are a key. A key does not open a door because it is beautiful, but because it fits the lock. And this truth is the key to chains you have carried for far too long. Beloved child, let these words of truth sink deeply, not only into your thoughts, but into the way you see life. When you wake up, you no longer begin the day with the question, "Will it be enough?" but with the confidence, "I am being led." When you face difficult decisions, you no longer panic but listen. When you see a door close, you do not collapse because you know other paths are being prepared. This is the mark of a liberated mind. I do not promise a life without trials, but I promise a life no longer ruled by them. I do not say you will never grow tired, but you will no longer be exhausted by despair. I do not claim every question will be answered immediately, but you will no longer live in prolonged confusion. The cycle of provision I have activated does not only sustain your body, it nourishes hope, vision, and the ability to keep moving forward without losing peace. Remember this, my child, the enemy can only hold you back if you believe his words. But when you stand on truth, he loses his footing. When you choose to trust what I speak over what you feel, chains fall away. Not always with intense emotion, but with a deep sense of relief. You will breathe more easily, sleep more peacefully, think more clearly, and from that foundation, outward changes will come in their proper order. Stand firm in faith, beloved child. Not by straining yourself, but by anchoring yourself. Anchored in the truth that your Father is not poor, not depleted, not powerless. Anchored in the truth that you are not forgotten. And as you remain anchored, you will realize that old chains no longer hold authority. A new cycle has begun, and the flow of life is now moving through your life. Gentle, enduring, and impossible to stop. My beloved child, I did not call you to wake up each day weighed down by cold numbers, by the worry of bills arriving one after another like relentless waves. I did not create you to live in a state of barely breathing, barely surviving, barely enduring. I call you into a different stature, the stature of one who knows they are loved and trusted and sent. You are not merely someone in need of provision. You are invited to become a channel of blessing so that through your life other lives may rediscover hope, be upheld, and be healed. My child, when you prosper according to my will, that prosperity does not shrink into personal gain. It overflows. It transforms the atmosphere around you. It turns your home into a dwelling place of peace. Your work into ground marked by integrity, and the relationships you touch into spaces warmed by generosity. I do not bless you so that you may be above others. I bless you so that you may become the right kind of person. One who knows how to use what they have to create life. And when you live this way, you do not merely receive blessing. You participate in transformation. Therefore, do not ask only in order to receive. Ask in order to become a source. Become a source of timely help, of wise generosity, of tireless hope. When you ask to become a source, your heart widens and I have room to work. You will discover that giving does not make you poorer, it makes you free. It releases you from the fear of loss, from the pressure to cling tightly, from the belief that safety comes only from holding more. In my kingdom, safety is born of trust and abundance flows through circulation. My beloved child, there is a law of life that I set in place from the beginning. Sowing and reaping, not as a cold calculation, but as a natural rhythm like breathing itself. When you sow kindness, you reap peace. When you sow faithfulness, you reap stability. When you sow generosity, you reap a deep and abiding joy. I do not force you to give beyond your strength. I teach you to give in the right rhythm with wisdom and freedom. And when you sow from a place of trust, your harvest will come unhurried yet certain, unpretentious, yet abundant. Remember Abraham, my child. He is not known merely for outward wealth, but for his deep fellowship with me. He understood that possessions were not the destination, obedience was the path. When I called, he listened. When I asked, he did not delay. He placed his trust in me rather than in what he held in his hands. And because of this, I called him my friend. That friendship was not built on advantage, but on trust. He did not hesitate to place before me what I asked for, and I did not hesitate to enlarge the borders of blessing beyond every familiar measure. My beloved child, I do not tell this story so that you might compare yourself, but so that you may understand the principle. True wealth is never separated from obedience. When you obey, you do not lose your freedom, you find it. When you entrust yourself, you do not surrender control, you are guided. Complete surrender is not abandonment of responsibility, but the choice to place the final authority in the hands of the one who sees all things ahead. In that surrender, you do your part with integrity, and then you rest in my care. I know this requires faith, not a loud faith, but a steady one. Faith does not always feel strong. Often it is simply the decision to stand firm for one more day. I know this requires obedience, not blind obedience, but obedience illuminated by love. I know this requires surrender, not surrender born of helplessness, but surrender born of trust. And I do not ask these things to burden you. I invite you into them so that you may be free. My child, when you choose to become a source, you will see small things begin to carry great meaning. A timely word of encouragement, a quiet hand of help, a kind decision made when no one is watching. These seeds do not disappear, they go before you preparing the way for the harvest. And when the harvest comes, it will not arrive only in material form. It will come as enduring peace, as restored relationships, as joy returning to the simplest moments. I do not promise that this path will be without challenges, but I do promise that you will not walk it alone. I am with you when you hesitate. I lift you when you grow weary. I adjust your steps when you move too fast or too slowly. And every small step of faithfulness is remembered by me. Nothing you sow in love is ever wasted. My beloved child, I am inviting you into an open and expansive life, one not defined by bills, not imprisoned by fear, not narrowed by old ways of thinking. I call you to become a channel of blessing, so that through you life may flow outward. When you live to become a source, I will take care of the flow. When you sow in trust, I will prepare the harvest. And just as I did with Abraham, so I will do with you in a way fitting to your own journey. Because I am faithful and my love does not change. My beloved child, I see clearly where you are standing. I do not need you to explain yourself, nor do I need you to hide anything. I see your bank account and the numbers that cause your heart to sink. I see the debts that weigh on your shoulders. The obligations that keep you restless through the night. Yet, my child, deeper than all of these things, what I see most clearly is your heart. I do not measure you by a statement of accounts, nor do I assign your worth based on your current financial condition. I look upon the quiet willingness to trust that is growing within you. Even when your hands still tremble, even when you do not yet understand where everything is leading. Today I am not focused on the numbers, I am focused on the direction of your gaze. Numbers can change very quickly. But your perspective determines whether you will live in fear or in hope. When you allow your heart to be imprisoned by lack, even opportunities that are very near become invisible. But when you choose to trust, not with reckless impulsiveness, but with deep surrender, doors begin to open in ways you could never have devised on your own. My child, those who believe do not merely wait for what seems possible. They draw near to what appears impossible. Faith is not the force of human will but the agreement of the soul with what I am doing. When you believe, you do not compel heaven to act. You align yourself with the flow of heaven. And that flow, once given room, stirs far more than you imagine. It stirs circumstances. It stirs relationships. It even stirs systems that appear immovable. I have already sent angels to you, not as distant stories, but as delicate arrangements woven into everyday life. Conversations that seem accidental will open new doors. Invitations will arrive just as you are about to give up. Contracts, opportunities, and unexpected solutions will appear when you no longer have the strength to manage on your own. You may not recognize them yet, but I want you to know this. They do not come from luck, but from quiet preparation taking place behind the curtain you cannot see. Be ready, my beloved. Readiness is not frantic rushing, nor is it anxious waiting. In this posture, even the things you thought were lost, missed opportunities, relationships that seemed closed, dreams tucked away in drawers can be restored in ways that are fresher, deeper, and more. Readiness is an inner posture when your heart remains soft, your mind stays alert, and your hands remain open, aligned with who you are becoming. My child, if you could see what is being prepared for you right now, you would not waste a single moment worrying. You would be astonished by the level of care I am giving you. Nothing is overlooked. No tear is forgotten. No prayer disappears into emptiness. Pieces are being placed exactly where they belong little by little, so that when the full picture emerges, you will recognize that everything had order, even the days that seemed the most chaotic. I know you have learned to restrain your joy, fearing that if you hope too soon, disappointment will return. But I tell you this, you have already begun to celebrate, even if you have not dared to name it yet. This celebration is not loud. It lives in the lighter way you breathe, in the deeper sleep you find at night, in the moment you realize you are no longer as panicked as before. These are signs that a new season is drawing near. My beloved child, what is coming is not only greater than what you are facing now. It is greater than anything you once dreamed within your former limits. When I give, I do not merely compensate, I expand. I do not merely repair, I restructure. Giving to this work through the link in the description or the pinned comment, whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our please know that every seed you plant in this mission will grow into a torch that shines in someone else's darkness. Phi Community does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. Heaven moves through willing voices, but it grows through hearts that are kind. This is what I say over you now. Each gift you give is like a stream of living water that flows into the life of someone who needs healing. Give and it will be given to you is not just a verse for Jesus. It is a living promise that shapes your future. Allow me to invite you now with a simple act of faith. Come into this moment with purpose, with honesty, and with hope. The money you give today is not a donation. The act of spiritual obedience that lets your heavens open is what opens them. Let go of your seed and see what God brings back into your life. I do not simply return you to the starting point. I lead you into a level of maturity you once did not have the strength to sustain. Your old dreams were constrained by fear and by memories of failure. What I am preparing goes far beyond those boundaries. And my child, these are not exaggerated words meant to stir emotion. I do not need to embellish to impress. I am God, the one who works in silence, yet with surpassing power. I do immeasurably more than all you ask or imagine, not to overwhelm you, but to free you from the small thinking that has confined you for too long. When you recognize who I am, you will no longer shrink yourself. Let your heart rest in this truth. You are not abandoned among the numbers. You are not judged by your debts. You are not defined by your current condition. You are seen, you are known, and you are being led. And in that leading, every next step you take, even the smallest, carries meaning. Each decision made in trust becomes a yes that creates more room for miracles. My beloved child, keep your heart awake and at peace. Do not let fear steal your expectation. Do not let the past dictate how you see the future. I am working. I am arranging. I am making a way. And when the time is ripe, you will look back and say, everything came at the right moment. Until that day, walk gently with a trusting heart. Because what is coming will not only resolve your problems, it will transform the way you live forever. My beloved child, listen very carefully with both your mind and your soul. There are things that easily slip away if they are heard only with the ears. But when they are allowed to sink deep within, they become the foundation for an entirely new way of living. I do not want money to become chains that bind you. Nor do I want you to be swept into the endless whirlpool of insatiable desire. Therefore, I invite you to learn an essential lesson to steward what you have under my guidance. Rather than allowing what you have to rule over you when money is in its rightful place as a tool, not a master, your heart is set free and peace finds room to dwell. My child, do not seek wealth to inflate the ego. An ego fed by money is never satisfied. It always demands more, faster, bigger. But when you seek abundance in order to honor my name, your direction shifts. A pure purpose cleans his motivation. A cleansed motivation lightens the burden. And when the burden is lifted, you walk through life with a lighter step. I am not opposed to prosperity. I am opposed to a misaligned heart. For a misaligned heart can turn blessing into a burden, while an upright heart can turn even the smallest thing into great joy. When I find a heart that is willing to honor me, not with eloquent words, but with a consistent way of living, I open doors that no one can shut. Those doors do not merely lead to resources, they lead to order. Order brings peace. Peace opens the way for wisdom. And wisdom enables you to discern what to pursue and what to release. I make the impossible become reality, but not to overwhelm you. I do it to free you from the narrow way of thinking that has held you captive for far too long. Now take a deep breath. Allow your body to slow down. Let the rapid breathing born of anxiety gradually settle. I am pouring peace over you. Not a fragile peace dependent on circumstances, but a peace that stands firm in the midst of upheaval. Anxiety is being lifted layer by layer. The unease that once weighed heavily upon you is being replaced with hope. This hope is not wishful thinking. It is trust anchored in my faithful nature. My beloved child, this hope will not disappoint you. For it does not rest on your own strength, nor on the temporary stability of this world. It rests on the one who does not change, who does not grow weary, who does not abandon the work he has begun. When you learn to place your hope in the right place, you will find yourself no longer pulled back and forth by news, by turbulence, by comparison. You stand firmer not because you have become tougher, but because you are anchored in truth. I want you to understand that mastering money is not about control through fear, but about stewardship through wisdom. Wisdom teaches you when to move forward and when to pause, when to invest and when to preserve, when to give and when to store. Wisdom does not make you stingy, it makes you free. When you give from that freedom, your generosity does not deplete you. It widens the flow. and I tend that flow so it does not exhaust you but sustains you through the years. My child, allow me to guide both your goals and your means. Right goals keep you from losing your way. Right means keep you from being wounded. I am not rushing you. I know you need time to learn, to adjust, to mature. I do not measure you by speed, but by faithfulness. Every small decision placed in the light of reverence carries far greater value than you realize. Each time you choose peace over panic, you lay another stone in the solid foundation. My beloved child, remember this. I do not bless you so that you will chase after blessings. I bless you so that you will remain in me, remain to hear my guidance more clearly. Remain to distinguish what is essential from what is secondary. Remain so that your heart is not pulled in 100 directions. When you remain, everything finds its proper place. When you remain, doors open at the right time. When you remain, you no longer need to prove yourself. You only need to be faithful. The peace I am pouring out is not the end of every trial, but it is armor for your soul. In that peace, you face difficulties without being swallowed by them. In that peace, you make decisions without being driven by pressure. In that peace, you rest without guilt. And from that place of rest, clarity begins to grow. My child, trust that I am faithful, faithful to fulfill every promise. Faithful to transform your reality according to a good and holy order. That transformation may not always take the shape you expect, but it always produces the outcome you need. I do not merely repair the surface, I touch the roots. I do not only change circumstances, I renew the way you live within them. And when the roots are healed, the fruit will come in its season. Continue to walk with a reverent heart, open hands, and an alert mind. Do not let money direct your dreams. Let your dreams be guided by me. Do not let fear shape your choices. Let truth light your path. When you do this, you will see the impossible gradually become possible. The distant draw nearer, and what was once tangled find its order. My beloved child, pause for a moment and listen with the full depth of your heart. What is opening before you is not a minor adjustment, nor a fleeting surge of excitement. This is a turning point, a crossroads where you cease living under relentless anxiety and begin learning how to walk in enduring trust. I am not speaking of a miracle that appears and fades. I am speaking of a new season, one in which your financial life is reset upon a grateful foundation and nourished by an unfailing flow. The flow of provision that comes from me. My child, when I say without limit, I do not mean that everything will arrive all at once. Nor do I promise a path without trials. I am speaking of a new way of living. Living under the flow. This flow is not loud or showy, it is steady and faithful. It teaches you how to recognize timing, how to discern priorities, how to move in rhythm rather than in haste. As you learn to live under this flow, you will find that what is needed for today arrives on time. And what is meant for tomorrow is being prepared even now. Every need will be met not by indulgence, but through a healing order. I tend to who you are before I tend to the numbers. I place peace in your mind before I place solutions in your hands. For if you were to receive everything while your heart remained tangled, you would only exchange one worry for another. But when peace reigns, you receive with clarity, you steward with gratitude. You move forward with a joy that is simple yet steadfast. My beloved child, the dreams within you have not been forgotten. Some were set aside by circumstance, others were buried by fear. I do not mock those dreams, I guard them. Yet I also refine them so they grow alongside the person you are becoming. When you remain under my promise, dreams are no longer pressures to be forced into existence. They become a guided pathway unfolding step by step in wise timing. Be alert to the signs. My child, I do not always speak with thunder. Often I speak through a sudden peace amid the business, through a meeting that seems accidental, through an idea that arrives at just the right moment. Alertness is not anxious vigilance. It is living with an open heart and attentive eyes. When you are alert, you recognize which doors to knock on, which paths to avoid, and when to slow your pace. And in that alertness, you will be surprised, not because what I do is extravagant, but because it is precise. I will use people you never expected, those you once passed by, considered irrelevant, or placed no hope in. I will use them as bridges. I will also close doors you once clung to, not to wound you, but to free you from old cycles. And I will open doors that seem sealed, places where you thought, it's too late. I've missed it. There's no chance left. I do this not so you may boast, but so you may learn to give praise in quietness. But my beloved child, this season asks 3 things of you: faithfulness, trust, and complete surrender. Faithfulness is not about doing great things. It is about doing what is right each day, even when no one sees. Faithfulness is keeping your word when there is no immediate gain. Stewarding what is small while the greater has not yet come. Choosing truth when deceit would be easier. Faithfulness is the language I use to entrust more. Trust is not the feeling of always being strong. Trust is the choice to stand firm when emotions sway. Trust dares to take a step when the whole path is not yet visible. It dares to wait when everything urges haste. Trust places me as the source and returns other means to their proper place. When you trust, you do not abandon wisdom, you allow wisdom to serve faith. Complete surrender is the deepest lesson. Surrender is not abandoning responsibility. It is yielding the final authority to the one who sees all things ahead. You do your part with diligence and integrity, and then you rest in my care. Rest does not slow you down, it makes you more precise. From that place of rest, you will hear more clearly. See farther and avoid many costly paths. My beloved child, living under the flow of my provision does not turn you into a consumer. It turns you into a steward. You will learn to allocate rather than hoard in fear, to give rather than clutch tightly, to invest in what holds lasting value. This flow does not exhaust you. It sustains you through the seasons, whether favorable or difficult, and every season carries a lesson, and every lesson expands the capacity of your heart. Remember that I am not in a hurry with you. I care about who you are becoming, not only what you achieve. If I were to give everything too soon, you might be overwhelmed. If I slow the pace, it is to protect you. I work according to the order of love, laying foundations before building high, establishing roots before bringing forth blossoms. When you understand this order, you will compare less, rush less, and blame yourself less. My child, there will be days when you clearly see what I am doing. And there will be days when you only notice that you are more at peace than yesterday. Both are progress. Do not despise small changes, a wiser decision, a gentler response, a more restful night's sleep. These are signs that the foundation is being strengthened. From that foundation, outward steps will come at the right time in the right place with the right people. Keep your heart tender and your hands open. Do not let fear steal your expectancy. Do not let the past continue writing the script for your future. I am preparing to astonish you, not with noise, but with the precision of grace. When the timing is right, you will look back and realize that every piece was placed exactly where it belonged. My beloved child, you are stepping into a new season, a season of provision that is learned, stewarded, and enjoyed in peace. The flow has opened. Walk in faithfulness. Anchor your heart in trust and surrender fully. As this awakening grows inside you, know that helping with this mission is not a joke. It is a sign from God. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our Ko-fi community, by doing so, you become part of Jesus' plan to still souls who are still. You can support this work through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Stuck in fog. Every seed turns into light that fights against darkness. If you water others, you will be watered yourself. Jesus says this is not history. It is a living promise about your future. Come into this moment with faith and a plan. What God has already planned for your life can be unlocked through your giving. I am with you to teach you how to live under the promise, to lead you through each door, and to complete what I have begun. And you will see what I do not only meets your needs, but transforms the way you live, steadfast, free, and full of hope. My beloved child, I know your heartbeat is quickening even in this very moment. Not out of fear, but because something deep within you has just been awakened. When you listen with your whole being, not only with your ears, but with your soul open wide, an inner door quietly turns on its hinge. This is not a passing surge of emotion, nor a reflex stirred by eloquent words. It is your spirit responding to a familiar call. A call your soul has recognized for a long time. Even while your mind still hesitated, you know this is real because truth does not need to shout. It settles your heart even as the rhythm grows faster. My child, there are moments when I speak and my words go straight to the deepest place where you cannot pretend, where you cannot shield yourself. There your soul knows what is true before reason has time to weigh it. That is why you sense a new vitality moving within you, like a gentle current running through your veins, like a light being switched on in a dark room. This is not comfort meant to help you momentarily forget your weariness. It is an awakening calling you to remember who you are, where you belong, and what you are being invited to step into. I do not come to paint over the cracks with a pleasing surface. I come to reset the foundation. My words are not meant to lull you into a false sense of safety. They invite you to rise in truth. Truth can make your heart beat faster, because it carries an invitation to change, and change always requires courage. But my child, courage is not the absence of trembling. Courage is moving forward even while trembling, because you know you do not walk alone. From the very moment you opened your heart, eternal decrees began to move, not noisily, but with precise order, like seeds falling into moist soil. You may not yet see the shape of the outcome, but you will feel a new steadiness, one that does not come from having every answer in hand, but from they take root before they break the surface. Knowing whose hand is holding yours. It is a steadiness that allows you to breathe more deeply, think more clearly, and choose more gently. My beloved child, learn to distinguish this clearly. Emotions may come and go, but the response of the spirit endures. When your spirit responds, it reorders priorities, reshapes reflexes, and calms old patterns of panic. You will notice that you are no longer carried away by every noise. You begin to hear the quiet whisper of wisdom. You do not need to rush to prove yourself. You need only be faithful where you are standing. From that faithfulness, the path will unfold. I know you have grown weary of promises that were never fulfilled. I know you learned to be cautious, to keep your distance in order to protect your heart. I do not blame you, but today I do not invite you to believe recklessly. I invite you to believe with discernment, to recognize that this voice does not pull you away from reality, but leads you deeper into it. A reality illuminated by hope, upheld by peace, and guided by unchanging love. My child, these decrees are beginning to be fulfilled. Not because you are perfect, but because you are willing. A willing heart is more powerful than all strained effort. When you open your heart, you allow me to work at the root where old fears have lingered, where words of self-blame once echoed, where old stories once defined you. I do not erase who you are, I renew the way you see yourself. And when your vision changes, your direction follows. My beloved child, there will be days when the process feels slow. Do not panic. A seed is not delayed while it grows beneath the soil. Silence is not absence. Often it is the sign of deep work. Learn to remain steady in those days. Remaining steady does not mean standing still, but trusting. Trust keeps your pace aligned, neither rushing ahead nor falling behind. Trust keeps you within the orbit of what is good. When your spirit has responded, you will notice subtle shifts. Less reacting, more responding, less self-condemnation, more learning, less haste, more discernment. These changes may seem small, but they are the foundation for greater things. I do not build high on a weak base. I build strong before I build tall. And because of this, what is coming will not cause you to break. My child, allow yourself to breathe deeply in this truth. Do not chase sensations. Stay with the peace that is spreading. A peace that does not require perfect circumstances to exist. That peace will teach you when to move forward and when to wait, when to speak, and when to listen. It will become a faithful companion guiding you through difficult choices without stripping away compassion. I do not need you to force yourself to feel anything. I need you to be honest. Honest with your fears, honest with your dreams, honest with your questions. Honesty opens space for grace. And in that space, eternal decrees are not merely heard, they are lived. You will discover that truth does not only speak to you, it walks with you. My beloved child, if your heart is beating fast, let it beat in peace. It is a sign that life is at work, that hope is awakening, that a calling is being answered. I am here, not distant, not changed, to lead you step by step. My words do not pass like the wind. They remain to work, to heal, to build. And from the moment you opened your heart, a new process has begun. My beloved child, now I invite you to step one layer deeper into a realm of understanding that no longer rests on what the eyes can see, but is grounded in what a process where truth is lived, hope is nurtured, and life is transformed from the inside out, is taking shape within the unseen. There are miracles that do not begin with noise, do not flash into existence all at once, yet grow with steadiness and precision. Financial miracles are like this. They do not first appear on a bank screen. They begin in the quiet movements of the soul where faith is planted, where hope is watered, and where gratitude becomes a way of breathing. My child, imagine a seed placed into the soil. When it falls into the ground, nothing seems to happen right away. The surface remains still, yet beneath it, a process has begun. The shell softens. Life awakens. Roots search for their path. If you dig it up every day to check, you will disrupt the life forming within. In the same way, the promises I have sown in your heart need time. Need the water of prayer, the light of gratitude, and the patience of faith. They do not sprout overnight, but they are never standing still. Every prayer you lift up, even when it is only a sigh and the whisper of my name, is a drop of water that nourishes. Every act of generosity, no matter how small, is a ray of light. Every step taken in faith, even when your legs tremble, is essential care. And every word of thanksgiving, especially when you have not yet seen the outcome, is the loosened soil that allows the roots to grow deep. I see it all. I remember it all. Nothing you do in trust is ever wasted. Therefore, my beloved child, do not despair when you do not yet see money appearing in the way you expected. Do not conclude that nothing is happening. Do not blame yourself because the process seems slow. The process has already been activated. Gears have begun to turn. Pieces are being placed in their proper positions. Decisions, encounters, and adjustments are being arranged, not hastily, not delayed, but at the right time. I have issued directives in the unseen realm on your behalf, not to overwhelm you, but to protect you. These directives open pathways, clear the way, and keep the rhythm. Yet at the same time, I am doing a deeper work, the work within you. For if I were to change only your circumstances without touching your identity, you would carry old burdens into a new season. I do not want that. I want abundance. When it comes to be a complete blessing, one that does not pull you away from me, but draws you closer. My child, I am shaping your character not through punishment, but through light. Light allows you to see your motives clearly, to discern what is essential from what is trivial, to recognize the voice of fear and the invitation of trust. I am expanding the capacity of your heart, so you can carry more without becoming heavy. I am teaching you how to receive without losing humility, how to steward without losing peace, how to give without becoming depleted. There will be days when you see obvious progress and rejoice. There will be days when all you notice is that you were less anxious than yesterday. Both are progress. Do not despise small changes, a wiser decision, a gentler response, a more restful night of sleep. These are signs that the roots are growing deeper. And when the roots are firm, the tree will stand against the wind. My beloved child, learn to remain with the process. Remaining does not mean being passive, it means being faithful. Faithful in small things when the big ones have not yet arrived. Faithful in your words when no one is watching. Faithful in gratitude when the outcome is still unclear. Faithfulness does not require you to be strong at all times. It invites you to be honest at all times. And in that honesty, I meet you and lead you forward. I know you have feared that abundance might change you, that it could pull you away from the values you hold dear. That fear is not unfounded, but listen to me because I am preparing your heart. Abundance will not rule you, it will serve you. It will expand your capacity to love, strengthen your ability to help, and enrich your vision. When I am at the center, resources find their rightful place as tools for good, as channels of life. My child, do not measure the process by a single sign. Provision rarely flows through only one channel. Sometimes it comes through an opportunity to learn. Sometimes through a decision that prevents loss. Sometimes through a relationship restored. Sometimes through an idea arriving at just the right moment. I care for you wholly. Not only your wallet, but your rhythm of life. When the rhythm is healed, abundance finds a sustainable path. Keep watering the seed with sincere prayer. No need for eloquence, only truth. Keep letting light in through thanksgiving even when you have to search for reasons to give thanks. Keep walking in faith. No need for long strides, only the right ones. I do not count your steps. I guard your direction. My beloved child, I am closer than you think. I do not rush the process. And when the harvest arrives at the right season, at the right time, you will realize that the most precious gift is not only what you receive, but who you have. Become along the way more peaceful, wiser. I protect it. I do not make you wait in vain. I prepare you for what is coming. More open. Rest in this truth. The unseen realm is working tirelessly on your behalf. Directives have been issued, paths are being prepared. And while these things unfold, I am with you shaping, healing, sustaining you. When abundance is revealed in the visible world, it will not come like a strange wind. It will come like a familiar friend fitting, steady, and drawing you ever closer to me. My beloved child, before I entrust you with greater things, I want to lay a deep foundation within your heart. Humility is not about diminishing yourself or denying the value of what you receive. Humility is about placing everything in its rightful order. When you remain humble, you do not allow blessings to blind you, nor do you let success pull you off course. You understand that what is coming is not the final destination where you were meant to stop, but a means for you to continue walking along the path. I have prepared the path of life, of love, and of a purpose greater than yourself. My child, do not confuse the means with the goal. Blessings are not given so that you settle down in them, but so that you may use them to fulfill what I placed in your hands from the beginning. When you view wealth, opportunities, or influence as the ultimate goal, you will soon grow weary from trying to protect them. But when you see them as tools, your heart will be lighter because tools are meant to be used, not worship. I desire for you to live in the freedom of a steward, not under the pressure of an owner. A steward uses wisely, shares generously, and rests in trust. An owner lives in fear of loss and never feels that it is enough. You are about to enter your divine future. Remember that this message does not end with you. People can use your breakthrough to get where they need to go through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our COEF community, you can help this mission. By doing so, you are sowing into the awakening, deliverance, and restoration of souls who are still trapped in darkness. This is not poetry. When Jesus says, "Give and heaven will open over you," every seed you plant turns into oil for your destiny. Fire for your calling and safety for your family. Now is your time, my child. Have faith, and as you do, watch God multiply what you let go of. My beloved child, there are blessings that reveal themselves only when you learn to honor what you already have. Appreciation is not passive acceptance or quiet resignation. It is recognizing the value of the present moment and using it with gratitude. When you honor what is small, you open the door to what is greater. When you despise what is small, you close that door yourself. Not because I am unwilling, but because your heart is not yet ready to carry more. I do not build high upon a foundation of disregard. I build firmly upon a foundation of gratitude. Many people wait for great miracles while looking down on small beginnings. They long for a giant leap, but resist taking steady steps. They hope for wide open doors yet refuse to turn the small key already in their hands. My child, miracles often begin in places that attract little attention, in simple choices, in quiet decisions, in faithfulness when no one applauds. I am not looking for loud beginnings, I am looking for true ones. The small amount of money you hold today, yes, that amount that seems insignificant is not fate mocking you. It is a seed, and a seed does not need to be large to become strong. It needs to be planted in the right place, cared for in the right way, and waited on in the right season. When you steward a small amount with respect, neither wasting it out of disregard nor clinging to it out of fear, you are telling me that your heart is willing to learn a greater lesson. That lesson is not about the number, but about your posture. My beloved child, remember the story of the 5 loaves and 2 fish, not as a distant memory, but as a living principle. In human eyes, it was not enough. Eyes trained to count say lack. Minds trained to calculate say impossible. But in my hands, what is not enough becomes abundance. The miracle does not begin when the quantity increases. It begins when what little there is placed in the right place in my hands with a trusting heart. The difference is not the number of loaves, but the act of offering. My child, offering is not always about giving a great amount. Often it is about giving exactly what I ask for. At times I ask for patience, at times for honesty, at times for an old habit, at times for a familiar fear. When you offer these small things, you place them into the cycle of miracles. And within that cycle, I do not multiply material things alone. I multiply life, the life of peace, of hope, and of purpose. Look again at what you have today with new eyes. It may not yet match your expectations, but it is not meaningless. Every ability you possess, every relationship you hold, every small opportunity you touch, these are all raw materials. Raw materials are not finished products. They await the craftsman's hand. When you place these materials into my hands, I work in my way. Never rushed, never careless, never wasteful. I know when to grind, when to mix, when to bake. I know the moment when the fragrance should be released. My beloved child, humility also means learning from the present. Learning to steward small things teaches you to steward great ones. Learning to give thanks when it is not enough teaches you to remain steady when there is abundance. Learning to give when you have little teaches you not to be bound when you have much. These lessons cannot be skipped. They are the steps that lead to higher ground. If you skip them, you may fall. If you take them one by one, you will stand firm. I do not want you to be drawn into comparison, comparing money, speed, or outcomes. Comparison clouds vision and erodes joy. Each person has their own rhythm. Each seed has its own season. When you are faithful to your rhythm, you will not miss your season. I am present in that rhythm, going ahead to prepare the way, standing beside you to support you and behind you to guard you. You are not required to run, you are invited to walk. My beloved child, keep your heart tender towards small things. Let gratitude warm what feels cold and let faithfulness steady what feels unstable. When you hold a small amount of money today, do not despise it. Ask me how to use it. At times I may lead you to save. At times to invest, at times to share. The guidance is not the same for everyone, but it is always consistent with the purpose I have for you. When you listen, you will know. I do not promise that this path will be free of testing, but I do promise that it will bear fruit. Fruit is not only what can be seen. Fruit is the person you become, more patient, more wise, more open-hearted. And when that person is ready, greater things will come. Not to overwhelm you, but to serve something even greater. My child, let the 5 loaves and 2 fish remind you each day of this truth. What is small in your hands is not the end, it is the beginning. When you place it into my hands with a humble heart, I will multiply it in ways only I can. Enough to nourish many, enough to honor purpose, enough for you to see that miracles are not far away. They begin right where you are with what you have. When you trust and offer it, my beloved child, walk today in clear and grounded humility. Do not despise what is small, do not idolize what is great. I am here to turn humble beginnings into abundant outcomes, to transform quiet seeds into joyful harvests, and to lead you to live fully in the purpose that was. Be faithful in the present and open your heart to the future, set in place from the very beginning. My beloved child, listen with your whole heart. For what I am inviting you to do is neither an impulsive act nor a reckless experiment. I am inviting you to step into a principle that belongs to life itself. The principle of entrustment. You do not need to wait until you have more, until you feel stronger, or until everything feels certain. What I am looking for is not the size of what you hold in your hand, but the openness of your heart. Even when what you have appears small, it carries immeasurable value when it is placed in the right hands. My child, the fear of lack is a harsh teacher. It trains you to grip tightly, to hide, to defend, and to calculate until you are exhausted. It whispers that if you let go, you will lose everything. That if you share, there will not be enough for tomorrow. But I tell you this, that fear does not protect you, it imprisons you. When you hold on out of fear, the flow becomes blocked. Not because I am unwilling to give, but because your hand is closed. I do not ask how much you have, I ask how deeply you trust. Trust is not a surge of emotion, trust is a choice. A choice to open your hand even while your heart still trembles. A choice to place what seems little into my hands rather than clutching it yourself. Trust is saying yes to what I am doing, even when you cannot yet see the whole picture. And it is within that choice that the cycle of the infinite is activated quietly, without display, yet surely and enduringly. My beloved child, be clear about this. Letting go in faith is not abandoning responsibility. Letting go is entrusting final ownership to the one who knows better than you. What should be kept, what should be used, and what should be given. When you let go, you do not become careless, you become free. Free from the obsession with controlling everything. Free from the pressure to save yourself, free from the cycle of not enough. Must hold, must fear. I ask you, do you trust me? Do you trust that I see tomorrow before you begin to worry? That I know what you need more deeply than what you are afraid to lose? That my hand is wide enough to hold your portion when you open yours? This question is not meant to shame you, it is meant to awaken you. For your answer, even if spoken only in silence, will shape how you walk in this season. My child, when you cling tightly out of fear of loss, you think you are protecting the supply. In truth, you are blocking it. Flow requires a pathway requires space. And space is created when you open your hand, not out of naivety, but out of obedience. Obedience is not blindness, it is trust that I am leading you. And when you make room, I pour out not merely more in quantity, but deeper in quality. Look back at the moments when you held on because you were afraid. Afraid of losing security, afraid of being hurt, afraid there would not be enough for you. I do not condemn you for being afraid, I understand. But I invite you to learn another way. When you open your hand, you learn to receive from the source, not only from what you are holding. When you open your hand, you learn to give without being drained. Because you are no longer giving from a sealed reserve, but from a flow that is being continually nourished. My beloved child, what you entrust to me is not only money or tangible resources. Often what I invite you to release are old habits, self-made plans, the way you define safety, the fears you have grown accustomed to carrying. These things, though invisible, take up a great deal of space in your hands. When you let them go, you make room for the new room, for clarity, for healthy relationships, for opportunities that align with who you are becoming. I do not promise that the moment you open your hand, everything will change instantly before your eyes. The cycle of the infinite moves according to order. An order that protects you from gifts that arrive too early and burdens that exceed your strength. But I do promise this, when you open your hand, the flow begins. You will notice small signs, a timely idea, a decision that avoids loss, an encounter that opens a path. These signs are not loud, but they accumulate. My child, practice opening your hand every day in small things. Open your hand when you choose to share instead of hoarding in fear. Open your hand when you choose honesty instead of silence to protect your ego. Open your hand when you choose gratitude for what is not yet complete. Each time you do this, you are training a new reflex, the reflex of trust. And that reflex will support you when greater decisions come. I know there are moments when you fear that if you give, others will take advantage of you. Wisdom does not exclude trust. Wisdom guides it. I am not calling you to give indiscriminately. I am calling you to give under my guidance. When you listen, you will know when to give, when to hold, and when to wait. Trust does not rob you of discernment, it sharpens it. My beloved child, the cycle of the infinite is not merely receive, give, receive more. It is the cycle of life itself. Receiving with gratitude, using with wisdom, giving with love, and then resting in trust. When you live within this cycle, you are no longer chased by fear. You are led by purpose, and when purpose leads, abundance finds its rightful place. I ask you again not to compel you, but to invite you. Do you trust me? Trust enough to open your hand and say, I place this in your hands. Trust enough to let me teach you how to receive. According to the rhythm of life, not the trust enough to release what you have been holding tightly. Rhythm of panic. My child, remember this. A closed hand may hold something small. An open hand can receive something great. Yet the greatest thing you receive is not only what enters your hand. It is the peace that enters your heart. When you open your hand in obedience, you make room for me to pour out. Pouring out clarity, pouring out healing, pouring out the right relationships and opportunities. That flow does not cause you to lose yourself. It brings you back to who you truly are. Walk today with open hands and a steady heart. Do not let fear lead you. Let trust light your path. What you have, however small, is enough to begin. What you need, however great, has already been prepared in loving order. When you open your hand, you do not fall into emptiness. You fall into my hands. And in those hands, the cycle of the infinite continues to move gentle, faithful, and sufficient for the journey you are walking. My beloved child, today I invite you to look back at yourself with a new gaze. Not the gaze of comparison or self-reproach, but the gaze of purpose. You were not created to be a closed storage room, a place where everything is hoarded out of fear that it might run out. A storage room is always on guard, always tense, always asking, will it be enough? A channel is different. A channel does not panic over the flow because it does not rely on how much water it holds within itself, but on the source that sustains it. A channel always receives and always flows gently, continuously, and in the right direction. Please know that every seed you plant in this mission will grow into a torch that shines in someone else's darkness. Giving to this work through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our co-community does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. Heaven moves through willing voices, but it grows through hearts that are kind. This is what I say over you now. Each gift you give is like a stream of living water that flows into the life of someone who needs healing. Give and it will be given to you is not just a verse for Jesus. It is a living promise that shapes your future. Allow me to invite you now with a simple act of faith. Come into this moment with purpose, with honesty, and with hope. The money you give today is not a donation. The act of spiritual obedience that lets your heavens open is what opens them. Let go of your seed and see what God brings back into your life. My child, I want you to become a channel for my provision. This does not mean neglecting wisdom or responsibility. On the contrary, it puts responsibility in its proper place. When you see yourself as a storage room, you carry the burden of having to manage everything on your own. When you see yourself as a channel, you learn to steward with trust, knowing how to receive, how to use, how to give, and how to rest. A channel does not create the source. It remains faithful to carrying the flow from the source to where it is needed. And because it stays connected to the source, it does not fear running dry. My beloved child, I promise you this. As long as you remain connected to me, that flow will not cease. Connection is not a rigid ritual, it is a living relationship. It is learning to turn back to me in small decisions, in everyday concerns, in days of ease as well as days of difficulty. When you stay connected, you are not abandoned in the midst of change. You are guided through it. And it is within that connection that the flow finds a steady and enduring path. The unlimited prosperity I speak of is not a lottery ticket, nor a stroke of random luck that comes and goes. I do not invite you to live by fragile hope, but by solid assurance. Unlimited prosperity is a way of life, a life dependent on me. Dependence is not weakness. It is knowing that you are leaning on the one who does not change. When you depend on me, you are not swept along by fear. You are anchored in faithfulness. And that faithfulness becomes the foundation for every step you take each day. My child, living as a channel requires you to learn to release the fear of hoarding. Hoarding out of fear makes your heart cramped and your vision narrow. But releasing in trust opens space for the flow. The flow does not require you to understand every turn. It asks you to keep the pathway open. When you open your hands, you do not lose safety. You place safety where it truly belongs at the source that never runs dry. My beloved child, choosing each day to live with the assurance that provision will come is an act of faith. It is not denying reality, it is placing reality in the light of truth. That truth declares that you are seen, known, and cared for. It declares that you are not alone in the face of your needs. It declares that even when circumstances change, the source remains steadfast. When you live with this assurance, worry no longer leads you. It becomes merely a signal calling you to return and listen. I want you to know that a channel does not flow only for itself. When you allow the flow to pass through, your life, you become a blessing to your family, to your work, and to the relationships you touch, not through display, but through steady presence, not through grand promises, but through a channel carries life to the lands around it. Faithful actions. The flow through you carries peace, wisdom, and hope. Things that cannot be measured by numbers, yet nourish many. My child, learn to distinguish between having and flowing. You may have little, yet you can flow abundantly. To flow abundantly means allowing life to pass through kind words, through upright decisions, through timely generosity. When you flow, you do not run dry. For a channel does not dry up while the source still flows. And I am the source. The source that does not tire, does not stop, does not change. I do not give you drop by drop only to withdraw it. I place you in the current. There will be days when you were tempted to become a storage room again, to hold back out of fear for tomorrow, to shut yourself in out of fear of being hurt. I do not condemn you for feeling this way, but I invite you to remember who you are. You were created to connect, to transmit, to live within the rhythm of the flow. When you sense your heart closing, return to me. A quiet whisper, a slower breath, a single decision to open your hands, and the flow will find its way again. My beloved child, living in dependence on me does not make you passive. On the contrary, it makes you more intentional in what is right. You will actively learn, actively work, actively steward, but not in panic. You will do these things with clarity nourished by peace. When peace leads the way, you do not need to rush. When haste settles down, precision increases. And that precision protects you from costly choices. I want you to wake up each morning with a simple yet powerful awareness. Today there will be provision not because you control every variable, but because you are connected to the source. This awareness does not make you lazy, it makes you courageous. Courageous to step into a new day without carrying yesterday's burdens. Courageous to say no to paths that erode your soul. Courageous to say yes to small steps taken in the right direction. My child, a channel does not choose its own direction. It allows the source to direct it. When you let me guide you, you will not be pulled off course by flashy calls. You will learn to recognize which doors to knock on and which paths to avoid. I do not hide the way from you. I teach you discernment, and discernment is a precious gift for those who live in relationship. Let the image of the channel be engraved deep within your heart. When you receive, receive with gratitude. When you use, use with wisdom. When you give, give with love. And when you are weary, rest and trust. This rhythm keeps the flow unobstructed. This rhythm nourishes both you and those around you. My beloved child, I do not promise a life without change. But I do promise a life that is provided for, protected, and kept. When you remain connected to me, you do not need to guess what tomorrow will bring. You know who holds tomorrow. And in that knowing, you live freer than yesterday, not because you have more, but because you flow more rightly. Walk today as a channel, steady, open, and firmly connected to the source. Do not let fear turn you into a storage room. Let trust make you a living flow. I am here with you to keep that flow unbroken, so that each day of your life is nourished by provision, surrounded by protection, and held within an unchanging love. My beloved child, pause for a moment and listen to what is unfolding within you. Have you noticed that anxiety not only exhausts you, but quietly drains your vitality day after day? It does not arrive like a great storm that is easy to recognize. Anxiety causes you to spend your energy before you even take a step forward, makes you doubt your own abilities and causes you to lose the creativity that I place within you as a gift from the very. Instead, it seeps in like night dew, soaking into your thoughts, your breath, and the way you look toward the future. Beginning. My child, anxiety does more than steal your peace, it paralyzes your vision. When worry takes over, you begin to shrink back to play it too safe. Afraid of making mistakes, afraid of losing, afraid of not having enough. Ideas that once blossomed within you quietly close themselves off. Steps that could have opened new paths are postponed again and again. Not because you lack ability, but because your energy is being drained by scenarios that have not even happened. And the enemy knows this tactic well. He does not need to push you down. He only needs to keep you standing still. But today I speak to you with the authority of love and truth. That trap is being broken. Not by your strained effort, but by the light of awareness. The moment you recognize that anxiety is not your nature, it loses its power. You were not created to live in constant tension. You were created to live in trust. And that trust is not based on everything already being resolved, but on knowing who is holding all things together. My beloved child, I have placed within you a peace that surpasses ordinary understanding. It is not the peace that comes from having solved every problem, but the peace that comes from no longer carrying every problem alone. This peace does not require you to see the entire road ahead. It simply invites you to walk one step at a time in trust. When this peace reigns, your mind becomes clearer. You're breathing deeper and your creativity is stirred again like an underground spring long buried. My child, I have also placed within you a new confidence, a confidence that does not depend on the numbers in your bank account, is not controlled by contracts yet to be signed, and does not fluctuate with salary increases or decreases. This confidence does not come from controlling circumstances, but from knowing that you are upheld. It is the steadiness of one who stands on rock, not because the waves never come, but because the foundation does not collapse. When you stand in this confidence, you do not need to prove yourself to anyone. You only need to be faithful to what I have entrusted to you. My beloved child, let me make this clear. You are not weak because you have been anxious. You are simply human. But you are not defined by those moments of worry. I do not see you through your moments of confusion. I see you through your ability to rise and keep walking. And today I am helping you lay down a burden you have carried for too long. Not by denying reality, but by placing reality into my hands where it is handled with wisdom and love. When you stop allowing anxiety to rule, you will notice something remarkable. Your energy returns. You no longer have to waste strength resisting fear. Your creativity is restored not only in your work, but in how you solve problems, how you connect with others, and how you see opportunities where others see it only. You use that strength to build limits. This is not an outward miracle. It is the natural result of a soul set free. My child, the enemy wants you to believe that if you do not worry, you will become careless. But I tell you, this peace does not make you reckless. It makes you clear-minded. Anxiety narrows your vision. Peace expands it. Anxiety pushes you to react. Peace gives you space to respond. In peace, you make better decisions at the right time with fewer regrets. Peace does not slow you down. It makes you more precise. I know you once thought that if you did not worry, everything would slip through your hands. But my beloved child, some things were never in your hands to lose. They are in mine. When you try to hold them through anxiety, you only exhaust yourself. When you release them in trust, you allow me to act, and I do not act in chaos. I act in order. That order may not look like the plan you drew, but it always leads toward what is good. My beloved child, learn to recognize the signals of anxiety earlier. When your heart races over scenarios that have not yet arrived, stop. When your mind circles endlessly around what-ifs, return to the present moment. Breathe slowly and remind your heart that you are being held. Each time you do this, you are training a new reflex. The reflex of peace, and that reflex will grow stronger over time. I do not promise that you will never feel anxious again, but I do promise that anxiety will no longer rule you. It will no longer decide how you walk, how you choose, or how you see yourself. You will walk in steadiness, not because you know all the answers, but because you know the one who holds control. And that control is not harsh, it is gentle and sure. My child, when you live in this steadiness, others will notice something different about you. Not because you boast of faith, but because your presence carries peace. That peace spreads. It softens tense conversations, opens doors for dialogue, and creates an atmosphere where solutions emerge more easily. You become a bearer of hope, not through loud words, but through the way you live. Remember that your creativity is intertwined with peace. When peace returns, you begin to think differently, act differently, and see differently. Ideas once trapped by fear find their way out. Steps once delayed by hesitation become clear. Not everything becomes easy, but everything becomes possible. And within that possibility, you take steady steps forward. My beloved child, today I declare freedom for your mind. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from the chains of anxiety. I invite you to lay down your burden and receive the peace. I give a peace that does not require full understanding, only willingness to receive. As this awakening grows inside you, know that helping with this mission is not a joke. It is a sign from God. You can support this work through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our COF community. By doing so, you become part of Jesus' plan to save souls who are still stuck in fog. Every seed turns into light that fights against darkness. If you water others, you will be watered yourself. Jesus says this is not history. It is a living promise about your future. Come into this moment with faith and a plan. What God has already planned for your life can be unlocked through your giving. Let that peace guard your heart and your mind, so that you may walk in the light of trust. You will walk in steadiness, not because circumstances are always favorable, but because you know that I am in control. And when you know this, you are no longer paralyzed. You are set free to live, to create, to build, to love. This is the life I desire for you, not led by fear, but guided by peace. Not drained by anxiety, but renewed each day in trust. My beloved child, from this point forward, you will begin to notice very gentle, very subtle signs like small lamps being lit along the road you are walking. They are not loud or showy, yet they are clear enough for a watchful heart to recognize. It may be a debt that suddenly finds a path toward renegotiation in a way you never imagined. It may be a job opportunity appearing just as you were on the verge of giving up. It may be money coming to you as an unexpected gift. Not because you demanded it, but because the timing has ripened. My child, do not take these signs lightly. They are not random. They are whispers of care. Reminders that the flow has been opened and is finding its way through your life. Small signs are often overlooked because people are accustomed to waiting for dramatic changes before they believe. But I teach you to see differently. When a flow begins, it rarely arrives like a crashing waterfall. It comes like an underground spring, patient, persistent, and rightly directed. A door that opens slightly today may lead to a long corridor tomorrow. A conversation that seems ordinary may become a turning point. A decision that prevents a mistake may be worth more than an immediate gain. Learn to recognize and honor these moments. This is the language of process. My beloved child, keep your heart grounded in gratitude. Gratitude is not a religious courtesy, it is a key. When you give thanks, you acknowledge the source. When you acknowledge the source, you make room for the flow to expand. Gratitude does not make you complacent, it makes you attentive. It teaches you to see what is present rather than only what is missing. And when your way of seeing changes, your path changes with it. There are doors that open only when you honor the threshold. There are opportunities that come only after you have learned to care well for what is small. When you give thanks for the little things, I entrust you with greater ones, not to overwhelm you, but to mature you. When you celebrate small victories, I prepare larger achievements, not for you to boast, but for you to serve a deeper purpose. Celebrating at the right time does not slow you down, it makes you more enduring. My child, do not wait until everything is grand before allowing yourself to rejoice. If you postpone joy until someday, you will miss the strength of today. Joy in each step lightens the burden of a long road. Joy in every bit of progress, however small, nourishes hope, so you do not give up halfway. Rejoice when a bill is settled. Rejoice when a phone call opens a new possibility. Rejoice when you realize you are more at peace than yesterday. These joys are not trivial, they are fuel. My beloved child, every detail is the work of my hand. Nothing is too small for my care. I am present in the arranging of schedules, in the shifting of timing, in meetings that appear accidental. I work according to the order of love, an order that is neither hurried nor careless. When you look back, you will see a red thread running through it all. The thread of care binding scattered pieces into a meaningful picture. Learn to pause and take notice. Noticing does not slow you down. It makes you precise. When you take notice, you understand where you are on the journey. When you take notice, you adjust your pace wisely. When you take notice, you avoid the temptation to compare. Comparison clouds vision and erodes joy. Each person has their own rhythm. Each seed has its own season. Your rhythm is being carefully held. My child, sometimes the signs come in the form of what did not happen, a risk avoided, a wrong decision not made, an unnecessary expense cut away. Do not dismiss these non-losses. They are blessings in ordinary clothing. They protect the flow so that your energy, time, and hope are not leaked away. Protection is also a form of provision for the future. Let gratitude become a habit. This habit does not depend on emotion. It is formed by choice. Each morning, find one thing to give thanks for, however small. Each evening, look back on one step forward, however modest. When you do this, you are training a new reflex. The reflex of recognizing life at work. That reflex will help you remain calm amid change and clear-minded when choices arise. My beloved child, when you celebrate small victories, you are sending a clear message. I see and I value. That message expands the capacity of your heart. A greater capacity can carry more without becoming heavy. And when that capacity is ready, greater things have a place to remain without exhausting you, without pulling you off course. Do not measure the process by speed. Speed without foundation leads to fatigue. A steady pace with a firm foundation leads to endurance. I do not measure you by the number of steps, but by the direction you are heading. Your direction is right toward trust, toward peace, toward life. The small signs confirm this. Let them encourage you to keep going. My child, there will be days when you see many signs and days when there is only one very small sign. Both are enough. One drop of water is enough to remind you that the spring is still flowing. One small lamp is enough to guide you through a dark stretch. Do not demand excessive proof before allowing yourself to trust. Trust is nourished by faithfulness to what has already been revealed. Remember that joy and gratitude do not deny hardship. They place hardship in its proper context. That context declares that you are not alone. It declares that a hand is at work. It declares that every detail has its place. When you hold this context in your heart, you will not be swept away by temporary fluctuations. My beloved child, continue walking with open eyes and a tender heart. Recognize the signs, honor the progress, and celebrate at the right time. When you give thanks for what is small, I open larger doors not for you to run, but for you to walk steadily. When you rejoice in each step, I prepare fitting achievements not for display, but for the fulfillment of purpose. Do not wait for a perfect moment to begin rejoicing. This moment is enough. Today is enough. Every step, however short, deserves to be acknowledged. For every step is the work of my hand guiding, protecting, and nourishing. And as you continue in this way, you will look back and realize that the flow has not merely been activated. It has become a way of life, a rhythm of gratitude, of joy, and of steady progress. My beloved child, listen deeply to what I am whispering into your soul right now. Unlimited prosperity is not a trophy reserved for a select few. Nor is it the reward of luck or a rare opportunity. It is a principle, a life-giving order open to all who choose to walk in my ways. When you set your feet on that path, you are not entering an illusion. You are stepping into truth. This truth is not confined by the numbers you see, not narrowed by the noise of the times, and not locked away by gloomy reports. My child, the world has its own language. It speaks of scarcity, of competition, of doors tightly shut. Bills have their language too. Not enough. Not yet. You must wait. The economy has its voice as well, sometimes crying out crisis and sowing unrest. But I have my language, the language of life, of order, of a word that does not return empty. When I decree abundance over your life, no earthly circumstance has the authority to overrule it. Not because I deny reality, but because I hold reality at a deeper level. The secret is not whether you can avoid upheaval. The secret is where you place your trust. If you see your bank balance as a fortress, you will always feel fragile because that fortress shifts with every number. If you see contracts, titles, or salaries as your foundation, you will live on guard because that foundation can tremble. But if you see me as the source, you will walk in stability even when everything around you shakes. Stability does not mean there is no wind. It means knowing you stand on ground that will not collapse. My beloved child, that stability does not come from gripping more tightly. It comes from being more firmly anchored. Anchor to me, the source that does not tire, does not change, does not run dry. When you are anchored, you learn to receive without panic, to use without waste, and to give without exhaustion. You learn to walk by the rhythm of life, not by the rhythm of fear. That rhythm is unhurried, yet sure, humble, yet strong. Understand this, my child. True wealth is not born from accumulation alone. It is born from your intimate relationship with me. That relationship is not a series of scattered moments. It is a living dialogue, listening and responding. When you listen for my voice amid your choices, you avoid many costly detours. When you follow my guidance in small things, you build a foundation for greater things. True wealth grows from wisdom nurtured day by day. My beloved child, listening is not passive. Listening is a courageous act. The courage to pause amid the noise, to ask before deciding, to wait for the right time. Obedience is not blind either. Obedience is trusting that my guidance sees farther than your eyes can see. When you listen and obey, you do not lose your identity. You discover yourself within the order of life. There will be moments when you are tempted to believe you must be enough before you can have peace. But I tell you, peace comes first and enough follows. Peace clears the way for wisdom. Wisdom opens the path for sustainable provision. If you wait for everything to be perfect before you have peace, you will wait forever. But if you receive peace now, you will walk differently. Not rushed, not frantic, not trading deep values for short-term gain. My beloved child, unlimited prosperity does not promise a life without challenges. It promises a life that is guided. In that life, you know when to move and when to pause, when to invest and when to hold, when to say yes and when to say no. Discernment is the mark of true wealth. Rich in mind, rich in heart, rich in relationships. Discernment protects you from choices that look attractive but erode the soul. Let me teach you how to measure success. Success is not only what you achieve, it is how you achieve it. Success is not only the final result, it is the process of faithfulness. When you are faithful in small things, you learn to steward greater things without pride. When you are faithful in difficult days, you learn to stand firm in favorable days without losing direction. Faithfulness enriches the heart before it enriches the hands. My beloved child, there will be days when the world says impossible and the numbers all nod in agreement. But remember this, what is impossible for people is not my limit. I do not act to prove power, I act to protect your path. When I open the door, I also open the way for you to enter with humility and wisdom. When I close a door, I am also shielding you from paths that would drain you. Keep your heart soft toward guidance. Do not cling rigidly to a plan if I invite you to adjust. Do not fear changing direction if the light shifts. Flexibility rooted in trust is strength. It allows you to adapt without losing your core, and that core is relationship. The place you return to listen, to learn, to be renewed. My beloved child, true wealth is born when you learn to hear my voice in everyday choices. Choosing integrity over shortcuts, quality over display, steady rhythm over impulse. These choices may not be loud, but they accumulate. They create a trajectory of stability, of wholesome joy, of sufficiency that does not depend on fluctuation. Do not let the fear of lack teach you the lessons of the world. Let trust teach you the lessons of life. When you trust, you do not ignore reality. You place reality into the hands of the one who knows how to handle reality with order and love. When you trust, you do not stop working. You work with a different posture. The posture of one who is guided, not chased. My beloved child, walk each day with this awareness. Your source is not far away. The source is near enough that a single prayer can begin the dialogue. When you listen and obey, you enter the flow of life. That flow does not promise quick riches, it promises lasting wealth. It does not promise no wind, it promises an anchor. And that anchor holds you steady amid the waves. Let your relationship with me be the center. From that center, wisdom spreads. From wisdom, right decisions are formed. From right decisions, sustainable provision arrives. That is the order of unlimited prosperity. Not reserved for a few, but open to all who choose to walk in my ways. My beloved child, today you do not need to prove anything. You only need to place your trust in the right place. When trust is placed at the source, stability becomes a way of life. And within that way of life, you will see even when the world shakes, you remain standing. Even when numbers change, you remain at peace. Even when conflicting voices rise, you hear guidance clearly. That is true wealth born from intimate relationship, nourished by listening and obedience, and protected by unchanging love. Now pray as follows. Lord, I stand at a crossroads within my own heart between continuing to believe and giving up. I confess that there are moments when I am so weary that I simply want to turn my back on hope, just to avoid being disappointed yet again. But today I ask you to grant me the courage to pause for one breath, not to comfort myself with familiar words, but to listen from the depths of my soul. Please quiet the noise in my mind, so I may recognize that you have been there from the very beginning. Right in the place where I thought I was alone with the weight of life. Lord, help me believe that you do not arrive later than my worries. Let me sense your presence like bedrock beneath my feet, steady, silent, yet never absent. Please realign the rhythm of my life within your peace, so that I do not make decisions from panic, but from your gentle and faithful guidance. Lord, you know the nights when I lie awake, eyes wide open in the darkness, my mind spinning with numbers, payments, responsibilities, and fear. I have tried to appear calm before others. Yet inside I often feel like a cramped room filled with unsolved calculations. I ask for your mercy upon my weakness. Please touch the place where I feel powerless, where I have done all I can and still feel that everything is beyond my control. Lord, teach me to discern between real needs and false fears so that anxiety disguised as responsibility no longer governs me. Grant me sleep as a sign that I am being watched over. Grant me peace that does not depend on my current financial situation, and grant me a healed sense of worth, so I no longer measure my value by balances or debts. I entrust my family, my future, and every responsibility I carry into your hands. The one who cares completely. Lord, I confess that I often want an instant miracle, an unexpected number, a sudden change that resolves everything at once. But today, I ask you to teach me that miracles sometimes begin very quietly. Please bring about a redirection within my heart from fear to trust, from panic to listening, from haste to watchfulness. Lord, open my eyes to see paths I did not notice before, not because they did not exist, but because fear clouded my vision. Place into my hands the wisdom to manage, the clarity to choose, and the courage to do my part without losing peace. Help me remain faithful in little things, so I may stand firm when greater things come, and keep my heart tender that I may learn to trust you even when circumstances Teach me to take small steps in the right direction. Have not yet visibly changed. Lord, I thank you because you do not merely soothe emotions for a moment, but desire to heal at the root. Please heal the way I see my own worth so that numbers no longer define me. Uproot the invisible cords that have controlled me. Fear of lack, memories of failure, habits of self-diminishment, and the whisper that says I am not enough. Replace every lie with your truth that I belong to you, am loved, am guided, and am not imprisoned by the past. Shape my motives so that abundance, if it comes, does not inflate my ego, but deepens reverence, gratitude, and responsibility. Rooter my inner life so that peace becomes my foundation, wisdom my pathway, and joy my strength. Renew who I am so that when circumstances change, I do not return to old cycles, but walk as one who has been set free. Lord, I believe you are not limited by human frameworks. Please make a way in ways I have never imagined through new opportunities, timely connections, awakened ideas, and wise decisions that spare me from loss. Teach me to see you as the source so that every other means returns to its proper place. Lord, close the doors that keep me trapped in old patterns and open the doors that lead me into a new order. Help me recognize the small signs of grace, a timely conversation, clear direction, unexpected peace, wise counsel, a path where I thought there was none. Guard me from impatience, comparison, and self-reproach. Grant me holy patience to wait for the right timing and the courage to step forward when you prompt, neither earlier nor later. Lord, if you lead me into a season of harvest, please also teach me stewardship. Grant me the wisdom to guard, allocate, and use what you entrusted me with humility. Save me from two extremes, impulsive spending and fearful hoarding. Lord, free me from the obsession with scarcity so tomorrow no longer tugs at me with anxiety. Teach me to live in freedom, the freedom to say no to choices that steal peace. The freedom to delay what is unnecessary. The freedom to prioritize what holds lasting value. Teach me that responsibility is not a crushing burden, but a boundary that protects freedom. And if blessing comes, keep it from binding my heart to the blessing itself. Instead, draw me closer to you, abiding in you, listening to you, and walking in the right path. Lord, place within me a deep, quiet gratitude, not loud or showy, but steady like a lamp set within the home. Teach me to thank you even when things are not yet complete. For I trust that you are leading me in a good and orderly way. Lord, teach me to live generously from inner sufficiency, not from the pressure to prove myself. Help me care for my family with love and responsibility, to nurture our home with kindness, peace, and healthy conversations. Let the atmosphere in my home be renewed. Gentler words, clearer decisions, calmer hearts. You are about to enter your divine future. Remember that this message does not end with you. People can use your breakthrough to get where they need to go through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our COF community, you can help this mission. By doing so, you are sowing into the awakening, deliverance, and restoration of souls who are still trapped in darkness. This is not poetry. When Jesus says, "Give, and heaven will open over you," every seed you plant turns into oil for your destiny, fire for your calling, and safety for your family. Now is your time, my child. Have faith, and as you do, watch God multiply what you let go of. May the blessing that flows through my family be not only financial, but also order, joy, healing, and unity. Teach me to bless others within my capacity without exhaustion, comparison, or shame, but in the freedom of one who knows they are kept by you. Lord, I confess that you are my Father. You are not poor, not depleted, not powerless. I confess that I am not overlooked, not forgotten, not a second choice. Please reestablish order within me, shifting my focus from lack to the source, from fear to trust, from striving to being anchored. Let me begin each day with this declaration: I am being guided. Let me face difficult decisions through listening, not panic. When doors close, keep my peace, for I trust that you are preparing another way. Lord, complete what you have begun in me so that I will not be ashamed of having trusted you, but will become more peaceful, wiser, and freer in your unchanging love. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ.